Yeah, so let's transition over to football. Of course, Auburn will have their spring game on April 6th, but this thing on, I guess a lot of people, a lot of fans I know are looking at quarterback because obviously what we saw in the bowl game, Peyton Thorne, and then I think a lot of fans were like, why didn't they bring in a quarterback? Also got Walker White coming in, Hank Brown, who was very impressive at the end of the bowl game against Maryland. For you, for this Auburn football team, what is the big spring storyline for you?
I mean, I would think that watching Peyton Thorne, although I don't know what kind of answers we're going to really get in the spring, seeing Peyton Thorne continue to grow and leave his mark on the program. I think he represents Plan A for this Auburn coaching staff and this Auburn team at the quarterback position. Plan A would be Peyton Thorne, who has played a lot of college football, and the other guys on the roster right now have played relatively none compared to Peyton Thorne when you look at Holden and Hank and Walker. And that's not to say like there's potential in that room. Any one of those guys could step up and make a push to be the starter. But I think it would be a real gamble for this Auburn coaching staff to go with Walker or Holden or Hank to start the year just because they're so inexperienced, especially compared to Peyton or anyone they could go get in the April transfer portal window. So I would think that Plan A is Peyton Thorne holds on to his job, and with more cohesion at the offensive line and more talent at the receiver position and a full off season as the starting quarterback, Peyton Thorne has his best football ahead of him. He plays his best football in 2024. If Auburn's coaches look at Peyton Thorne this spring and decide, we need to go find a veteran option to compete with him or to come in and start, like that would represent to me Plan B or Plan C. But yeah, I mean, how does Peyton Thorne, how does he continue to grow and develop? Luke Deal had a lot of really interesting things to say about Peyton Thorne. We were talking to players last week about how, Luke Deal thinks that in this new era of college football, a lot of guys are in a position where in their second year, their first full year at a school, they can take a big step forward just because so much is taking your attention away from football and so much is new and different when you switch teams as a college football player. Auburn has a ton of second-year guys, including Peyton Thorne, who, if that theory, if there's something to that, Auburn has a bunch of guys that could theoretically take a leap forward because, they know what to expect as an Auburn football player, and now it's a matter of growing and developing and sharpening whatever you need to do to be a better player in your second year with the program.
Yeah, I think some people kind of forgot. I mean, it was a year ago. I mean, he came in after the spring of last year, too, and that probably set him back, too, as well, going into the season. I mean, I think getting those valuable reps, obviously, now is spring. And then just what's your thoughts, too, on how now Hugh Freeze fully being the play caller once again could impact his quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think Hugh Freeze is a smart guy, and I think if Hugh Freeze thought this offense was going to be worse in year two, I'm not sure he would have volunteered to roll up his sleeves and call himself the play caller. I think Hugh Freeze looks at a lot of the stuff I was just talking about. A veteran quarterback who gets to spend the full off season with Auburn. An offensive line where you might not need to. I mean, they added Big Percy from Mississippi State, but that might be the last addition to this offensive line. They might get to spend a full off season with at least 4 and maybe all 5 of the starters pretty well entrenched in Percy Lewis and Dylan Wade, Connor Lew, and Xavier Too Tall Miller. Those are, and we'll see what happens at right guard. But 4 of those guys feel like they're going to be the starters, and I would look at Too Tall Miller as another. Just like we were saying about Peyton Thorne, Too Tall Miller is a guy who, at times last year, remember he came up from junior college and went from junior college to starting in the SEC. And at times he was raw. I've had people describe his performance at times as he was in over his head against top tier SEC pass rushers. That's a guy to me. And it's hard to pick a breakout figure who doesn't touch the ball. But I think Too Tall Miller could make a big jump forward in his second year of major conference college football. And if Auburn has a proven SEC left tackle in Percy Lewis and a right tackle making a big leap forward in Too Tall Miller, tackle has been a question mark at Auburn for so many of the last couple of seasons. That's been one of the storylines. And for Auburn to feel really good about its tackles, like that's a reason why the play caller, whoever it is, whether it's Hugh Freeze or an offensive coordinator that he brings in, that's a reason for the play caller to feel very good about their chances of success.
Yeah, then obviously the offensive line works, the quarterback's got time, and then now whoever's quarterback can get the ball into these talented wide receivers Auburn's got coming in that everybody's excited about.
And it's difficult. Peyton Thorne talked a little bit about how it's difficult for receivers jumping from high school to major conference college football. Even the best receivers maybe struggle to adjust to the speed of the game, the complexity of the playbook, the quality of the opponent, the quality of the defensive back that they're facing. And so, I want to be careful about how much to expect from the true freshman quarterbacks. But I think between bringing back guys like Jay Fair and Caleb Burton, who have received rave reviews from the leadership, the leadership council, the players that we talk to, who provide sort of guidance about these things. Jay Fair, Caleb Burton, both guys who have gotten rave reviews this offseason. And then to bring in Lewis from Georgia State, who was a big play threat for a good passing offense in the Sun Belt. And I'm so intrigued by Sam Jackson because I remember getting ready for the Cal game last year, how explosive he seemed with the ball as a running threat playing quarterback for Cal. He's a guy who was a teammate of Peyton Thorne's in high school. They could have some chemistry from a long time ago. And I remember Cody Burns years ago talking about how switching from quarterback to receiver at the college level, especially if you're athletic enough to do it, your time as a quarterback has helped you understand defenses in a different way than your average receiver and made it easier to get open. And Cody thought that even though he was new to the position, he was able to bring some tricks as a quarterback with him that helped him get on the field. I think that might be the case for Sam Jackson, the Cal transfer as well.
Leaving on the defense, all the assistants, bringing DJ Durkin in, of course, Charles Kelly coming in as well as an assistant, Wes McGriff coming back. When you look at DJ Durkin, what are your expectations out of the defense?
I wonder if my expectations would have changed no matter who they hired as defensive coordinator. So much of it seems to be based around the personnel. I think if you're talking about second-year players, that seems like a common. It's a pretty common refrain when you look at this Auburn team because they went to the transfer portal so much in Hugh Freeze's first season. But a guy like Keldrick Falk, right, like a breakout year for a five-star coming out of high school who played a lot as a true freshman, that would go a long way towards helping whoever is calling the plays for the Auburn defense. I'm really intrigued by Champ Anthony. Champ Anthony played, he was a late arrival out of junior college that sort of, he took, I think people were expecting Champ Anthony to have to wait a year while some other options got on the field. But Champ Anthony was kind of undeniable when you look at the young options Auburn had at corner, and he was the one playing often last season when Keontae Scott had to leave the field. So now Keontae slides over to corner, and I think Champ Anthony could step in and play a lot of those slot corner nickel snaps that were going to Keontae last year, and that's become maybe I don't want to rate positions in terms of importance, but that position has become so much more important in the last few years of college football, the proliferation of the spread. That used to be, your third or fourth best corner would be the guy you'd play there in the slot, and now it's a unique skill set, and sometimes it's the best, most talented guy in the secondary is having to play that role because teams are increasingly putting one of their most talented players in the slot to match up with whoever's doing that. So yeah, I'm intrigued by what kind of sophomore season at Auburn Champ Anthony could have this upcoming year.